Hello, this is Miss Andrea with not another homeschool vlog. And tonight I'm going to talk about what no one else seems to be willing to talk about publicly. And it is the fact that in Georgia, in Cobb County to be specific, Cobb County is northwest of Atlanta, about 40 minutes. Maybe closer than that, but it stretches out. And a bunch, about 16 homeschool programs, co-ops, hybrid homeschool programs located in churches have been issued cease and desist letters from the county fire marshal. Not the programs specifically, but the churches that host them. And they have been stopped from moving forward with their school years, at least at those locations. I've known about this at this point for 2 weeks, and it has never hit the mainstream news at all. I talked about it in my last video. I talked about how there having been a mass exodus of students, especially black students, from Cobb County just due to a bunch of the stuff that's going on there, and that all of Georgia, the schools in all of Georgia have done pretty solid school at home programs. And so my theory is that if they can eliminate the homeschool programs, the ones that are truly homeschool or hybrid homeschool programs, from operating, then they, they redirect those kids who have moved out of homeschooling, who feel like they need the support of a program, back to the public school at home programs. So like I said, this has not hit the mainstream media at all. I literally am only able to get information on YouTube, on Facebook and on TikTok. Let's start with the TikTok.
Has posted a video about, so I just wanted to share some of the facts that we have. For our specific county, people have made complaints to code enforcement, and the way that it was handled is that the fire marshal contacted different churches throughout the county who are known to host homeschool groups. The first contact was inquiring about what types of groups they hosted, how many kids were involved in those groups, how many days per week, how many hours, etc. Each week.
I'm going to jump ahead because you can find the Will Life on TikTok and see her video for yourself.
At the beginning, we thought only in our county. Our leadership has reached out to HSLDA as well as the Georgia Homeschooling Association. And this is something that is happening everywhere. It's not always from the fire marshal. So in different areas, there might be other violations that these facilities are receiving. But it is happening, to my knowledge, nationwide. Our homeschool group, community, co-op, whatever you want to call it, is currently homeless. We are working to find a church who already has this educational occupancy certification, so that way we can...
I did not know this. I did not know that this program, that this issue affecting homeschool programs was spreading nationwide. A little concerned. A lot concerned, really concerned. Um, Last year, I was in a homeschool program, and let me rephrase. Last year, the homeschool program that I run was housed in a church. Um, and we've been housed in that church on and off for 3 years, kind of around COVID, which is why I say on and off. And in January, we were called into the table to discuss our use of the building, and there was a concern that we were using the building too many hours, even though we'd had permission. And so now, like, my eyebrows raised, and I'm like, and then there were new trustees of the church, and they were concerned about the electricity used for that many hours. Now, they also house a daycare center there, and so they're fully licensed. So I don't really know the problem, if that would have been a problem for us. Net and net is we're not there any longer. We took that as a sign to get our own location. Our certificate of occupancy is based on the length of our classes. We have a 1 hour class, we have a 2 hour class, and we have a 3 hour class. And kids don't necessarily come in the morning and stay all day. They come to the class that they are scheduled to come to. Also, so kids aren't just dropped off and left with us all day. That's not a thing. Also, I'm just thinking about this because it's really got me a little thrown. Yeah, we're not a drop-off program. We don't do young children either. We have a strict certificate of occupancy. We'll never have more than 18 kids in the building at a time. And so hopefully we won't be affected. But we have a brand new certificate of occupancy. We've gone through the application. We've done all the things that we're supposed to do. So with that said, let's see about with the Cobb County Fire and Emergency Services. Had to say excuse me for scratching my eyes, but it is 11:30 p.m. and my mascara has worn off and it is itching my eyeballs. So, this is from the Cobb County Fire and Emergency Services. To whom it may concern, from the Fire Marshal Division Chief, July 14th. Yeah. Oh, it's been one. They were sent out a week ago. Certificate of Occupancy for Education in Churches. I just had this done, so I'm good. Also known as Assembly Occupancies. This memorandum is a response to numerous inquiries concerning private schools operating within churches. Okay. The facts of the situation are outlined below. Around June 21st, 2022, Cobb County's Fire Marshal's Office received 2 anonymous complaints of churches hosting private schools without a certificate of occupancy. An anonymous report of learning? Hello, sir. There's learning going on at a church, so we can't have that. They visited 2 churches and asked them to provide the scope of operations for the schools they plan to host. Based on the scope of operation provided by each school, they are required by code to obtain an education certificate of occupancy. I do not have an education certificate of occupancy. I have a tutoring and training center certificate of occupancy. Big difference. They are currently working with both schools to assist them with their certificates of occupancy. They always follow up with complaints they receive promptly. For example, if a complaint is received for a tenant occupying a space, without a certificate of occupancy, They will review files to determine if a certificate of occupancy exists. If no CO exists, a violation notice will be issued for the tenant for occupying without a CO and inform them the process to get plans reviewed. The related inspection process to obtain a CO. Typically, the process takes approximately 30 days from issuing the violation notice. Therefore, they reevaluate the project a month later. If no action or progress is taken, the tenant can be subject to fire and life safety citation for occupying without a CO. When the building is deemed an education occupancy, a business occupancy, the following fire and life safety issues include, but are not limited to, the following items: sprinkler system, fire alarm system, specific location of the classrooms based on the student grading to be considered, corridor widths that are 6 feet wide minimum. This feature is different from churches. Protection of corridors, smoke partitions, door closure requirements, emergency lighting and egress elimination, architect or engineer stamp of approval. The day-to-day operation of an education occupancy will require standard administration process related to fire and life safety requirements, mandatory fire drills with students, evacuation training for teachers, development of posted evacuation plans. For example, if a church or any space does not have a CO for educational occupancy, the school will need to go through normal process of related reviewing stamped school plans and the standard commissioning related to obtaining a CO for education. In simpler terms, the CCFMO requires a physical location complies with blah blah blah. Further, any school with less than 6 persons or operates less than 4 hours a day and less than 12 hours a week would not be classified as an occupation Further, any school that with less than 6 persons or operates less than 4 hours per day and less than 12 hours per week would not be classified as an educational occupancy. If the school works less than 4 hours per day or less than 12 hours per week, it may classify as an assembly or business. This depends on the number of students. Let me do some math. Yeah, I am just under 12 hours in a week. Okay. I do have more than 6 students though, but that seemed to be allowed in my county. I went through this whole thing. In summary, no fire code citations have been issued. No cease and desist have been issued. That's not what I was told from the representative of HSLDA who spoke to my business partner directly. No stop work orders have been issued. So clearly people are screaming at them. They have issued 2 violation notices informing potential education occupancies. They need to obtain a CO before operating a school within a church, also known as an assembly occupancy. This is not a whole truth. This is not a whole truth. So, I am blown away that this is not in the mainstream media. And maybe it's because the churches don't want to get dinged for what is essentially operating illegally. So they're not going to go to the news and say we were operating illegally and we got smacked on our hand. But I'm blown away that literally the only 2 places that I could find information on this is Facebook and Twitter, TikTok, Facebook and TikTok. It's crazy. I'm just scrolling through to see if there's any other information. 87 comments here with people just following. Someone has spoken with over 60 co-ops, hybrids, communities, learning pods, and groups. Of those 60, only 12 have received notices. None of them officially shut down, okay? Though some are having to scramble a bit to maneuver opening this season. Sorry. but everyone seems to have a plan in place already. A few things are happening which created this. There are private companies operating as drop-off educational facilities, not us. These do not count under the Learning Pod Act. Oh. Because there's an act that's supposed to prevent this from happening. Um, Because they are not parents creating a group learning environment, rather business creating a non-traditional educational facility. Learning pods are protected from licensure. Businesses are not and require proper licensing and zoning. A few co-ops are meeting in churches that do not have the required certificate of occupancy for children to be dropped off without parents staying on site. This is why I have a parent area with comfy couches. This means the building might not have appropriate exits, fire security alarm systems in place for this type of activity. These co-ops have to work to find a new location that is appropriately zoned, licensed, and insured. I pay hella insurance. Or work with the venue to get it up to date. Again, this only applies to drop-off programs, not a drop-off program. Bright from the start has been checking in on all drop-off programs. Ooh. Homeschool, daycare, private school to keep them up to date. These laws are not new, but focus was relaxed during COVID to provide some relief as everyone struggled. And when parents realized that homeschooling was a viable option because COVID showed them that, now everybody's mad. So no, our homeschooling rights are not under attack. Nobody's being shut down by the state. Your learning pod or co-op is more than likely legal. I had intended to create the list of shutdowns, but this won't be necessary. Wow. Let's see what else we have here. I heard that the issue was that kids are there more than 4 hours a day, more than once a week. That puts the church in need of a child care certification, additional code requirements. So yeah, it's wild out here. There's definitely a Learning Pod Act. Effective date, July 1, 2021. So I didn't read it correctly when I introduced it last time. And it protects learning pods. A learning pod is a bunch of parents getting together to homeschool the children corporately. So, recap. There's some stuff going down nationwide. It seems to be blowback from COVID because a lot of parents were kind of forced to do school at home. And then they were like, oh, why don't I just go ahead and homeschool? And so then all of these homeschool programs grew. And my wild hair guess is that school boards got upset because they were losing students to churches, to church schools.